médias sociaux jouent un rôle primordial donc, dans la promotion du tourisme. Étant donné qu'il s'agit de médias gratuits, vous n'êtes pas obligé pour payer, par exemple pour faire de la publicité dans un média classique, à savoir la télé ou la radio, mais il suffit donc d'avoir accès donc, à Facebook, par exemple avoir une page Facebook ou créer votre chaîne YouTube ou être placé sur LinkedIn pour promouvoir une image formelle de votre institution à travers laquelle vous allez communiquer donc sur le tourisme de votre pays. Et ainsi le ministère du Tourisme par exemple peut avoir sa page Facebook là où il pourra publier de temps en temps des images sur le pays. Il pourra publier par exemple suite au partenariat qu'il pourra établir avec des agences de voyage, donc des promotions que pourront faire donc les agences de voyage. En même temps, il y a des partenariats qu'on pourrait faire avec d'autres pays. Donc tout cela pourrait être donc publié à travers les médias sociaux sans payer même un sou. Et ensuite, quand il y a une crise, ça arrive qu'un pays traverse une crise au niveau donc, du tourisme, et ça se passe partout dans le monde. Les États-Unis, ils ont souffert le 11 septembre 2001, donc d'une crise très connue à l'échelle internationale. Mais après, ils ont pu donc dépasser cette crise-là. Donc, si vous avez une crise, vous n'êtes pas obligé d'attendre que les médias vous communiquent, donc, ou vous demandent de parler, ou c'est pas évident que vous lancez un communiqué de presse, vous attendez qu'il soit publié par le média ou diffusé donc à travers une vidéo. Il suffit de le publier sur votre page Facebook, ou il suffit de le publier sur des groupes Facebook là où il y a plusieurs communautés. Donc vous allez adresser un message qui est clair à travers un média social à un moment donc bien précis sans avoir recours aux médias classiques. Donc voilà qu'il y ait des moyens qui sont disponibles à tout moment, toute la journée aussi. Vous pouvez publier votre message le soir, le matin, l'après-midi, tout dépend donc, parce que quand il y a une crise, il faut rapidement réagir et le silence n'est pas vraiment une solution parce qu'on peut pas ne pas communiquer.
You know, I mean, these days, folks are confronted with all sorts of choices, what they call in the business the noise out there, the noise factor. You have to get your message across despite the fact that there's so many other competing messages coming across to anybody that's in the audience. So you have to do something that's different. It has to be either creative or in some way different than what everybody else is doing. So that's important in terms of getting a message across. You have to be, I think, accurate and proactive with the members of the media. If you're in the tourism sector, you have to know who the media players are and go to them and develop longer-term relationships. And then when a crisis happens, then you've got somebody that you can go to. You can't expect that things are going to change overnight. The media is not going to change the way they report on some crises because of the relationship with the tourism sector. But it will be helpful in terms of getting the message out. And I think in those terms, during a crisis or any time, in fact, the truthfulness is extremely important. It affects your credibility and your accuracy, your ability to leave yourself open to questions and to leave yourself open to the media. It's very, very important, because if there's anything that makes people suspicious, if you're holding back information, sooner or later it will come out, and it just is like a red flag for the media. People will chase those red flags. So you have to have a clear message, a succinct message at all times, something that attracts attention, but at the same time, during a period of crisis, you have to be especially watchful and wary that you're telling the truth and getting the truth out there as quickly as you can. It's not harmful to say you don't know what happened. It's not harmful to say to humanize what happened. In fact, if anything, it helps out the cause. And then you have to let time go by, because the fact is that a reputation after some kind of a crisis is badly affected. I mean, we've seen it with airlines, for example. When a plane crashes, the airline takes a hit. We saw it with 9/11 in the United States. When that happened, there was a hit on tourism. We saw it with Charlie Hebdo in Paris. Every time there's a crisis, you take a hit, you're going to have to live through that period. But after a while, time heals the wounds.
One thing that media really have to take into account is context. We have to put any event, any crisis into context with other events in the world and other happenings in the world. Is it dangerous to travel in a country like this, or is it dangerous, or is it more dangerous to travel in a place like New York? We have to put this into context, and this is something we really should look at and should do more of. Looking at the different ways of getting to the media, the DMOs and the governments should look at doing a multi-channel policy. They should not just do one press release for an event. Of course, they don't do that, but they should really consider the different channels that they're going through to the media. When an event happens, of course, we're talking to general news media. This is normal. We're also talking perhaps to economic media, and this is the kind of information that's going to get out at the time. Travel media is a whole different thing, and the message is going to be very different. When I say travel media, that can also mean, or that generally means the general public. But we should also, very importantly, look at the trade. Because if we're communicating with the trade, that is to say the tour operators and the travel agents, they're the ones who are going to be advising the people over the next months and years where to go, how to get there, what they should be doing there. When someone goes to a travel agent, they want precise information that they can trust. And if we can communicate correctly with these people, that's going to be a big plus for the country.
I actually think that the timing of the UNWTO conference has been very significant, especially when it comes to covering regional countries like Tunisia and Egypt, countries whose governments rely heavily on tourism for revenue, but of course they are facing challenges of their own. The reason I talk about these two countries in particular is because they're very culturally rich. But for example, when it comes to Egypt, despite the fact that there has been a slump in tourism since the 2011 revolution, they still managed to welcome, I think, over 10 million visitors last year alone.
One thing to keep in mind always is that communication is not a one-way street. You know, you can't just project a message. You can't just say to a journalist, here's what I want you to see. You go off, you see this site, and that's it, goodbye. And we don't want to, because they're going to want to see something else, or maybe they have something else in mind, or whatever. But it's a two-way system, and it's getting more and more that way because of the social media. You know, people expect now with the social media to interact with people, so that you can't just have one agenda. You have to, as the Tourism Authority of Portugal, the gentleman that was here from there, said, you know, when we invite journalists in, we just say, hey, we're going to give you a general take. You come take a look and see what you see. We're not going to direct you in any specific direction, knowing full well that if they try, it'll be counterproductive anyway. So they might as well just let themselves open and give as much encouragement and help as they can to the media. But it's a two-way street. You have to recognize that people are going to, you know, ask questions and want to do things that may not be on your agenda, but that's the way it is.